Looking for an easy recipe using fresh strawberries? Let's make a super simple strawberry cake. Gluten-free, of course. I'm Jamie with SavorySaver. I share gluten-free recipes, tips, tricks, and resources to make your gluten-free lifestyle easier. So let's get started. For this recipe, I am using King Arthur's gluten-free measure for measure flour blend that has everything in it that you need in regards to a flour blend and xanthan gum. So below, the full recipe will be linked. Ingredients will be in the description. And if you can't find this in your store, I will link to it. First thing you want to do is slice about 2 cups of strawberries, and that's just under a pound container of strawberries. So we're going to slice them up, and they're about 1/4 inch thick or so. I just sliced them into some relatively thick slices. And you want to cover them with about 1 tablespoon of sugar. Give them a quick mix, and then we're going to put those off to the side for a few minutes. The recipe also calls for a pinch of salt, and that's just going to help enhance the sweetness. It should not make them salty, but I am going to do that. Just a little mix again. All right, off to the side it goes. Next, I want to prepare our cake pan. You want either a 9-inch round or an 8-inch square cake pan for this. I have greased it, lined it with parchment, and lightly greased the top of the parchment as well. The recipe also says you could use a 7x11 tart pan for a thinner cake. This cake pan I think is actually 8 inches, so I may need to bake the cake a little bit longer, but we'll see how that goes. Now let's get our cake ready. So I've got 1 1/4 cups of the King Arthur gluten-free measure for measure flour. To that, I want to add 1 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Let's give it a whisk. Put this off to the side. Next, to the bowl of your stand mixer, or you could use your hand mixer. You don't need to dig out the great big stand mixer if you have a hand mixer. You want 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter that is at room temperature. So I've got my butter down here. I'm gonna add 1 cup of granulated sugar. I'm gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and the recipe does say you could use up to 1/2 teaspoon. I really like nutmeg, but just in case Tara doesn't want the strong nutmeg taste, I'm just gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon. The recipe also calls for the zest of 1 lemon, and I do not have any lemons in the house. I'm actually gonna use some lemon extract, and I'll give you the equivalent of this to the zest if you have this and don't have lemons at home. But I'm not gonna add it just yet. I'm gonna actually add it when I add the vanilla extract as well. So I'm gonna put this to the side for now. If you use lemon zest, you would add it now. I've got my flat attachment on here. The recipe says to beat it for 2 to 3 minutes until it's creamy and homogeneous, but not necessarily light and fluffy. So let's get that started. So I've beat it for about 2.5 minutes or so. It is light and creamy. It's all blended together, but I would not say it's light and fluffy. So I agree with it. Definitely agree with those directions. Next, I'm gonna add 2 eggs, room temperature, of course. We're gonna beat each egg in separately until it's well combined before adding the second egg. Okay, everything in there is mixed nicely. So I made sure that each egg, that the yolk streaks were gone. And then once the second one was in there, I made sure to blend it until the yolk, I couldn't see it. And then I even did about 30 seconds longer to make sure it's in there nice and incorporated. Our next ingredients is 1/2 cup of sour cream. This is full fat. The recipe doesn't state which to use, so use whatever one you prefer best. I've actually recently gone back to just using full fat sour cream because it's not really worth the calorie difference, and I like the taste of it better. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I'm gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of lemon extract because again, I don't have a lemon in the house to zest. Get everything beaten in until it's combined. Now we're gonna add our flour mixture all at once. You wanna beat it just until you see a few streaks of flour remaining, and then I'll just fold the rest with the rubber spatula. I'll fold it in so we don't overwork the batter. All right, guys, that's all I'm gonna do with that. I'll do the rest by hand. All right, so you can see the streaks of flour in there still, so I'm just gonna fold it all in together. Let's get that transferred into our cake pan. Next, we want to take our strawberries and we want to put them over the cake, and you want it in a tight single layer. So we want as little juice as possible, but we want them bumped up right next to each other because of course the cake's going to expand some when it hits the heat. So let's do that. You're probably going to have some berries left over, so let's get that done. So guys, as you can see, it's covered. There are still some gaps, and I have a bunch of strawberries left. So I'm gonna go through, break up some pieces, or maybe even cut some pieces smaller, because I'm gonna try to cover the cake and not have any gaps. At this point, I'm also gonna turn on my oven because the cake's rested a little bit. With it being gluten-free, I think it will benefit from the extra time setting so the flours can absorb all that moisture. So let's turn the oven on to 350 degrees. Let me finish topping this and I'll tell you how long to bake it as soon as I do. All right, so this is covered a little bit better for me. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take another tablespoon of white sugar and just sprinkle it over the top. Once my oven is up to temp, I'm gonna bake this for 40 to 45 minutes until the top is deeply golden brown. And I think I'll probably do the cake test and just stick a toothpick in here and make sure it comes out pretty clean as well. After that, I'm gonna cool it for 10 minutes in the pan. Then I'm gonna transfer it to a wire rack to cool completely. I'm gonna take it out of that pan after the 10 minutes. Once it's done, I'll show you what it looks like. So we were about 75 to 80 minutes into the bake time, which is crazy, but it just was not cooking through. So it finally darkened up here and is golden, but it wasn't cooked in the middle. So I did it another 5 or 10 minutes, and now I'm finally getting a clean toothpick. So I don't know if it's the pan size or the gluten-free flour or what, but now I'm gonna let this sit for 10 more minutes, and then I'm hopefully gonna be able to get it out of the pan, let it cool, and we'll give it a taste. Okay guys, here's our finished super simple gluten-free strawberry cake that was super simple but took forever and 3 days to bake. But before we talk about this cake, can we talk about my eye? So I couldn't see it earlier when I was filming, but I can definitely see it now. Tara needed windshield washer fluid in her vehicle, and I went to change it the other day. Lift up the hood. We also have pine trees all over the place. So I was getting the pine straw out of the top of the hood, turned to say something to her, turned back, clocked myself in the eye, dropped way more words than I should have dropped for doing this. And it looks like I got punched in the face. But anyway, it doesn't hurt, so I guess that's good. Now let's talk about this cake. So it looks really good. It is cooked, but it took forever. It took 75, 80 minutes. Like, I didn't think it was ever gonna be done. It rose, it sank, it's done, it cooled off, it is super sticky. So I'm sure that sugar on the top with the strawberries, you know, it's actually pretty sticky on the bottom too. So I will say the recipe has a sour cream whipped cream to make with it. I did not do that. I didn't have heavy cream in the house, but I did have some Cool Whip that was open. So the recipe link below also has that recipe in with it. Let's give it a taste. First without whipped cream, because I think that changes the taste of things and it won't let us actually taste just the cake. So let's try that first. Let's get rid of that Cool Whip. All right. So taste-wise, it's good. It's pretty dense, not in a bad way. It's pretty moist, which is nice. Sorry for any of you that don't like that word. The strawberries add a little bit of sweetness. It's kind of like a strawberry shortcake kind of taste to it. It does taste like it's cooked through, even though it, took over an hour and almost an hour and a half. I was only going to eat a few bites of this on camera, but it's over half gone now. Pretty golden there. There's the inside. It was easy to make. It was just that it took forever to bake. I wonder how many times I'm going to say that in this video. All right, so it's almost gone. So I guess I better wrap this video up. Decent recipe. King Arthur Baking. Full recipe is linked below. Ingredients are listed below. Easy. Tastes good. Just watch your baking time. I still don't know if that was me and the cake pan or not. But in any case, that's all I've got for today. Please leave me any of your comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.